What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Raw Feeding Breakfast Bowl. I didn't realize that Ronnie had walked away. I thought she flamed off screen, and we started while she was away. We literally just said welcome to the Raw Feeding Breakfast Bowl, though, so you didn't miss anything. That's hilarious.
Okay, perfect.
I literally didn't know that you'd walked away, and all of a sudden you come sitting back down. So what is up, everybody? Again, welcome to the Raw Feeding Breakfast Bowl. This is episode 4, and it should be 5, but we had to skip a month. So here we are, September, episode 4, and we are going to talk about some fun things today. I won't tell you what they are to make you stick around to find out what they are, but we are going to go ahead and get started with a very impromptu, very fastly found by Kimberly Raw Feeding Breakfast Bowl, because we were not very prepared for this particular Raw Feeding Breakfast Bowl, but we still pulled it off.
We're professionals.
We didn't want to miss 2 months in a row. We didn't want to miss it.
Okay, so I'm going to share. So this is gonna be a look. There we go. So this actually isn't breakfast. It's more lunch or dinner, but
it's food.
I just feed my dogs duck frames. And so this is just a bowl of duck frames, and the dog's waiting patiently for me to feed them out. And I feed them outside because my boyfriend's kind of grossed out about the dogs just laying around the house eating, even if I lay down blankets and towels. So they only eat inside when my boyfriend's not here. So he doesn't, so he doesn't know.
And now we hope he never watches this.
I know. He won't ever watch this.
Hilarious. So he doesn't go and watch every single video that you do?
No.
It's okay. Ariane doesn't either. It's okay.
Yeah, he's not even on Facebook. So.
Oh, well, okay then. Yeah, he's missing a whole lot of stuff then.
Yeah, so is my husband. He's not even on Facebook either.
Yeah, he doesn't know what I'm doing.
Ariane is definitely on Facebook. I think you guys get comments from her like every other day, at least every other day.
Yeah, my recent friend was like, "Isn't tomorrow Friday and not Saturday?" And I was like, "Oh, yes, you're right."
Yeah, and then I was like, and also you need to switch your time zones. But
you're right.
I love it. But we still got it pulled together, and we are here talking. And let's get started, because I think that this one we might end up talking, if we don't stop ourselves, we might end up talking for either 30 seconds or 30 minutes about this one, because it's been one of the hot topics over the last 4 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. Well, too long maybe, or not long enough. I don't know.
This is definitely worse than the balancing fat thing, because I think he was just frustrated with the balancing fats. This one, I think battle lines have been drawn where people are so angry.
Yeah, well, it's because I think that's because the balancing fats one didn't have like an enemy to point at, the particular issue that it was causing. It was, oh, well, this may happen and this may happen and this may happen, not this is happening. So it's much more easy for them to have an enemy, something to be, come together and be angry at. So this is this whole taurine deficiency conversation / war / argument / battle. So let's go around. Since you already started, Kimberly, let's go ahead and get your thoughts on this. What do you think about this whole dogs having to be supplemented with taurine supplements and the taurine deficiency issue and the whole thing?
Well, it's interesting to me because I look at things like this as a really like, oh, that's interesting, and tell me more. And so I was really just looked at it as, oh, that's an interesting thing. And, and I have seen, and I think we all have seen, we all have questions about kibble and what is true balance. And we've seen all these new raw brands come to market, and are they really balanced? And, there's always questions to everything. But I didn't really give it much thought in the beginning until I heard from someone that I trust who was like, oh, no, you really should be adding taurine. So then I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll write an article about it. And I ordered some taurine supplement to check it out and, and to continue doing some research. And I contacted a couple of veterinarian friends. I talked to my veterinarian, and one veterinarian said that, yeah, we should be supplementing our dog's diet, regardless of what we feed with taurine. Everyone else I spoke to in my dog's world, and this is not my dog's veterinarian, so this is just someone I'm connected to on social media, but my dog's veterinarian, and they have 3 because that's how we roll. All of them were like, no, there is not enough information. The study was too small. We need more information, and your dogs are fine. And it's just, I think, what I see is the frustration is, people are being told that what they're feeding their dogs, we were told, I don't know how many years ago, that grains are bad. And now we're being told that grain-free is bad. People are freaked out because, well, I'm feeding my dog this food and I thought I was doing really well, but now I hear that I'm hurting my dog. But, and I get the frustration. I wish that people could take a few steps back and just look at it as, oh, okay, so this is some interesting information. And then their next call is, let me call my vet and see if this is something I should be concerned about. Of course, not all vets are going to understand nutrition. So that's a troublesome spot there. It's just a hot mess. It's so messy.
Yeah, agreed. What do you think, Ronnie?
Well, just from what I know,
Ronnie,
Drum roll.
We know the dogs could synthesize their own taurine from other amino acids in their food from methionine and cysteine if they're supplied in adequate amounts. So if you're meeting all the essential amino acid requirements, essentially your dog will have the tools to create their own taurine. But there's a caveat, because there is some issues with genetic issues like DCM. There's breeds that are more prone to these heart conditions, and I don't have the experience or the veterinary know-how or the medical degree to say, yes, you need to supplement taurine. But for these dogs that do have heart conditions, that's when I would say that's when that amino acid becomes a conditionally essential amino acid, and we should supplement it in for those medical conditions. On my website, I actually do have a page for taurine, because cats cannot synthesize their own taurine. That's what separates them from dogs. And I have a page on my website saying the importance of taurine in raw-fed cat diets. And on that page, there is a breakdown UC Davis had done on different types of proteins. And well, I consolidated the information that was pertinent to raw feeding on my website, but they have a PDF which my page links to, and it shows the available taurine in these foods. So if you're feeding fresh whole meat, heart, working muscle meat, you're providing bioavailable taurine within the diet.
Right.
I'm trying to open something up to share the link to that, but I don't know what I'm doing. Just clicking around.
If when we're done here, either of you, Ronnie, Kimberly, wants to send me that link, I'll add it into the YouTube video description when we're done, so people can go and check it out. But I did go and check that out as well. I went and looked just out of curiosity's sake at things like eggs and a couple of other different things, but it's some really, really good information. And after, not just hearing from you guys now, but from recently talking to Billy from Answers about this. You guys can go and watch that video if you want to. It's here on, not here. I'm so used to being on my channel. It's over on the Dog Dad channel. You can go and watch that. I warn you, it's super long. Like we were supposed to go for an hour. We ended up going for like an hour and 45 minutes or something like that. But You can go and watch that, and he breaks it down much deeper than I'm going to be able to. But after that, after going and looking at this UC Davis information, I mean, if you're providing a rotation of variety, if you're providing a rotation of meats, proteins in your diet that have varying, amino acid profiles, if you want to call them that, and especially if you are adding in other, what Billy called, which was like the first time that I'd ever heard that, and it just blew my mind, reproductive foods, meaning foods that either sustained or created life in their entirety, that I just don't see how that is happening. Outside of the disease issues, like physical individualized health issues, I don't see how in healthy dogs, the average normal healthy dog, if you were doing that, especially if you are providing these reproductive foods, I just don't see how that is happening. Going and looking at those UC Davis numbers, just an egg, a single egg, has up to, I think it said 220, or maybe it was 202, and I'm being dyslexic, but somewhere between 200, 220 milligrams of taurine in a single egg. So I just don't see it yet. I would need to see more information before I became truly concerned, especially since I do feed a variety. I feed a lot of red meats. I feed heart. I just don't see it.
And I think what people tend to forget are the raw diets that we are encouraging people to feed are heavy animal-based protein. And animal protein is where taurine comes from. You're never going to find taurine in a plant-based food. It just doesn't happen. So when we look at the types of diets that we feed, when you just look at the bowl, instead of saying it's 80-10-5-5, when you look at it, you're going to see, oh, that's 80 to 90% animal protein right there. So that in itself should tell you that there's a sufficient amount of taurine.
Yeah, it's totally not scientific at all. I get that. But the one thing that I've heard a lot, I've read a lot, and I've just thought myself is, I love these AFCO numbers and the NRC numbers. Like, I really, really do. But when we start looking at things like, absorption rates and how much does this particular egg have of this, this, and this, and how much does this particular chicken quarter have of this, this, and this, Mother Nature did not set things up to go wrong, or else none of these species would still be around. Like, particularly, I'm getting lost because it frustrates me so much. It frustrates me so much. But what was it? I think it was manganese specifically, that trying to get to a meat without synthetic vitamins, meeting something like manganese, looking specifically at AFCO numbers, can be really difficult. And if you're adding in whole foods, sometimes when you're trying to do that, you're spiking out other levels of other nutrients. And then you look at, and this piece of info specifically came from the Dogs Naturally course, if you guys want to go and look at that. But if you look at the level of that inside of a mother, a bitches, a female that has had puppies, whatever you want to call her, if you look in her milk, it doesn't have those AFCO levels. So it's like, how much can we really look at those numbers and say that's the absolute solid, we have to follow this or else we're doing something wrong? Because, I mean, if these puppies are surviving off of mom's milk for, X amount of time exclusively, something's right there. Mother Nature is doing something right there. I don't know. That's a big tangent, but it drives me crazy.
It's like this. It's great information. It's interesting to have. I file it away in my mental, Rolodex to dig up later if something comes up. But I always go back to the people that we all know, we all have, in these groups, or someone we've connected with on Facebook who's been feeding raw for 20 or 30 years. And they didn't worry about any of this stuff. And they have long living, thriving dogs. And it's just take a step back and think about the fact that, because sometimes I'll even reach out to someone who I know has been feeding raw for decades and just say, so do you track everything in a spreadsheet? And no one does. No one does. I mean, I will admit I have my spreadsheet, but I have it because I was curious, not because I live.
Which you guys can find in the Raw Feeding Breakfast Bowl Facebook page if you want to go download it.
But it's just sort of like, it's one of those things where, yeah, this is interesting to have. It's good to know that if our dog, if we have like, you know, I have 4 mixed breed dogs. So if for some reason one of their breed makeup is a dog that is prone to having heart conditions, and this is something that I need to know about, and they start showing symptoms, then maybe that this is going to be great information to have, and I can have this discussion with my vet. But I'm not going to change the way I do anything. And I made the mistake of, you know, listening to someone who I actually still, I don't think that she's wrong. I just don't think that her belief is right for my dogs.
There really aren't very many blanket statements, right?
Yeah. It's just like every dog is different. My dogs are fine. I trust my vet, and I'm lucky enough to have a vet that's a pro raw, you know, holistic vet who knows her stuff. And so I'm, you know,
Love it. And that is a really important point. You know, if you own one of those breeds that has that, you know, tendency to have those issues, you know, maybe you should look into it more. Maybe you should do more research than someone that doesn't have one of those breeds. You know, having German Shepherds, I'm always looking at almost, you know, subconsciously paying more attention to how they are reacting to their joints moving around and any possible joint discomfort, especially, you know, hips, elbows, those kinds of things, because I know that that breed has very predominant issues with that. So Ronny, you were talking about this earlier. Do you remember, and it's fine if you don't, but do you remember any of these breeds that tend to or have a higher risk of those types of issues?
Oh yeah, certainly. Dobermans are the top of the list for DCM. Golden Retrievers, Bernese Mountain Dogs. It's a decent list that DCM is pretty predominant. But there's other types of heart conditions outside of DCM. You can have a heart murmur. There's other types of, so if I would just say, even though I'm not a vet, as a blanket statement, if your dog has a heart condition, that supplementing taurine would be beneficial. Another thing we didn't really talk about is something that's pretty popular in the raw feeding groups is getting like freezer cleanouts, which I think is great because it's a great way for you to reduce your budget. But there's one thing specific about taurine is that it does degrade over time in storage. So the longer that item has been in storage, the less valuable that taurine is. So
that is good to know.
There's sometimes these people are getting like meat that's years old. And I personally have a conflict with it, knowing the nutrition side, because you know it's not going to be nutritionally superior as a fresh piece of meat. But at the same time, I also do not like wasting food. Right. So what I tend to tell people in those situations is you always pair the old meat with take a fresh meat and then put a little bit of the old meat until it's all gone. Or turn it into training treats, dehydrate it, do things like that with it. Make Kong stuffers if it's ground meat. You know, there's all kinds of stuff you could do to where you could still utilize it and without really having to go overboard with supplementation. And then another thing that's interesting is grinding meat is going to reduce taurine as well because it's water soluble. And, you know, when you grind meat, it loses moisture just through the grinding process. So when you thaw out your meat, whatever liquid, even if it's a whole piece, the liquid that's in that bag, pour it back in the bowl.
Yes.
Don't waste it. Don't waste anything. Yeah. Don't waste anything.
Goes in the bowl. Yeah, the dogs love it. Because I feed a primarily ground diet. And they get everything. And then I think, you know, probably I don't do good time. So a year and a half ago, I think I started adding more because actually just got bored with grinding. It takes a lot of time. So, you know, anything that's small or easy, I just throw it into the bowl, and it's so much easier to
or duck frames.
Yeah, the duck frames.
Well, like I'm sure it's easy to feed, like toss chicken, turkey, or duck hearts into a meal with.
I mean, they're this big.
Right, and they're like abundant in taurine.
Yep.
So then it may be even beneficial if you're one of those people, maybe, you know, I'm going to be going to a couple's house up in Salt Lake a couple of weeks from now, and they have teeny tiny little puppy pugs, and they're of course going to be grinding their foods to start out because that's what they've decided to do. And I'm going to go and show them how to do that. So for people in that situation, it may be beneficial to just start adding in a little bit of heart if you're grinding your stuff at home to try and counteract the
well, if you're making your own balanced grind to whatever nutritional standards you're following, I would just say make it with meat and bones and add in the organs whole separately.
Yeah.
Because that's easy. Like chicken livers are quite small depending on the size of the dog. It might just cut it in half, and that's 2 days worth of organ content right there.
Right. Yeah, this is why there's no, I don't want to say no, because that's a blanket statement, but there's very few, I feel like, blanket statements where there's one right way to do A, B, and C, because there's just not.
No,
we say that all the time, but we have to.
When it comes down to like this type of stuff, like how you feed your dog, we're just arguing semantics and how it fits in with your lifestyle.
Right.
Because I think all of us right here feed entirely different.
Yeah. Totally differently. I mean, I've had students that go through, like Jamie that I've done some interviews with, who does things pretty much exactly like I do. Like the first time that I saw one of her pictures online of, look, I did my meal prep, I was like, oh, that person preps like me. And I was like, oh, that's one of my students, so that kind of makes sense. But then I've also had other students that have been like, dude, what you do sounds way too hard and sounds like way too much effort, and I'm never going to do that. I'm going to do what Kimberly's doing. So there's so many different ways to do this, and I think that's one of the benefits.
A lot of people have a hard time grasping how I feed, because I do over 7 days and I don't even prep. So that's really hard for a lot of people to grasp that in particular.
No.
Yeah, especially when they see this hunk of liver that's like this big in a perfectly Rawsome picture, and they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like they're like total cognitive dissonance. Like, that's too much. I'm like, dude, that's the only liver they're getting for like 7 days. They're fine.
Yep, I love it. See, yep, we talked for almost exactly 30 minutes about that topic. I totally called it. So let's move on, since we've kind of been talking a little bit about health issues, DCM, etc. Let's move on to the next topic, which is, why don't content creators, whether you're doing a blog like Kimberly and like Ronny has been doing very recently, which we very much love, or if you're making videos, Instagram account, you're starting your own Facebook group, whatever it is, why don't content creators give health diagnoses? Go ahead, Kimberly.
I'm not a veterinarian, nor am I an animal nutritionist.
You can't just read your disclaimer on your website.
I can just read it on my website. It's there. When you send me emails saying, my dog just ate an entire chocolate cake, or my dog just ate the cooked chicken off the counter, should I be worried? Or, my dog has had diarrhea for 7 days. Or every single time I'm going to say, I really think you should call your veterinarian. When it's on social media, I will not answer those questions in groups or anything. If someone tags me into that question, I will just quietly back away from it, because I am not a veterinarian. I am not an animal nutritionist. That's why I only write about my 2 dogs. If I were educating myself, like going to school and taking classes on nutritional things and just had a little more experience, even if I was like, education as a vet tech, then maybe I'd feel a lot more comfortable. But I just think that it would be irresponsible for me with my level of knowledge to do something like that. And I don't know if this is across the country, but I know in some states you can get in trouble for practicing medicine without a license if you are seen as giving medical advice. And there have been veterinarians who have been shut down because in their state, and again, I don't know if this is across the country or just state specific, but they have a rule that you actually have to lay hands on the animal. So you can't do like Skype consultations. You actually have to physically examine the animal before you give medical advice. And veterinarians have lost their license. So there was a guy in Texas, I honestly cannot remember his name, but I actually go to his website. I think it's called Second Chance Info or something like that, where it's a lot of really great information about dog health or pet health and nutrition. And then most recently, Dr. Peter Tobias in Canada surrendered his license because of, similar things. He was, sharing information on his website, and it was just sharing information, but people complained and they didn't like that he was promoting holistic medicine, and they shut him down. And so it's just, I think all of us are careful about what we share, simply because, I think on the broad end, we can get in trouble for it, but just on the more realistic end, it's just not responsible.
Yeah. What do you think, Ronnie?
Oh, same. I'm not a vet. Like, no. And even
what she said.
It goes against also my dog training ethics as well, which I can't give out medical advice as a dog trainer, certified professional dog trainer either. So I'm also risking my certification in that field as well. Especially if I want to hold the certification that I have now. And I also have never called myself a nutritionist either, because here's why. I'm not going to school to be a vet, therefore I will never become a nutritionist. That's just how the system works. You have to become a DVM to become an actual nutritionist. I've always called myself a raw feeding coach. I'm here to coach you on your way. But I do not give medical advice. If there's an issue with your dog in particular, you need to go to your vet. Now, if your vet's willing to communicate and work with me, I'd be fine with that. But I need to have your veterinarian's approval before doing anything. So it's just ethics and, like Kimberly said, responsibility. That's not my area of expertise. There's professionals for that. Go to the vet.
Right. What they said. What they said.
Be like Ronnie.
Just go to the vet. I had someone message my Instagram account, Perfectly Rawsome's Instagram account, saying that their dog swallowed a whole pork rib, but a singular one, and the puppy was 11 weeks old. And she was asking if she should go forward with the obstruction surgery that her vet advised. I was like, what? Why are you asking me this? Yes. Like this shouldn't be a conversation right now with you and I. I just was like, yes, you follow your vet's advice. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Even
and it is, and I totally get it, because I mean I get that people are like, well, I don't trust my vet, or I don't have a vet that understands this, and I'm afraid that I'm going to be shamed, so I just want to double check. Or people are just looking for assurance. But the thing that stops me from doing this is because years ago, when I first started writing about raw feeding, it was back when there were still forums. They don't seem to be many forums anymore. But there was a forum, and this woman made it her mission to warn people about the dangers of feeding a raw food diet. And the reason why is because her dog died because she was accepting advice from strangers on social media about what to feed her dogs. And I don't know, I can't remember what happened, but I think it had to do with bones, and her dog wasn't doing well. And she made the mistake of going to the people who had been giving her all the advice, telling her what was going on with her dog. They said, don't worry about it. Your dog is fine. Dogs were meant to process bones. It'll be fine. And her dog died because there was an obstruction. And so she was just sort of like, she hated raw feeding, but she mostly just hated the fact that people were accepting advice from strangers. And that really just shook me, because it was like, man, if I give someone horrible advice because I don't have all the information and their dog dies, it's just like, that's huge. And while, most of the time I really doubt that that's something that would happen, I just don't feel comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, in the Raw Feeding 101 Facebook group has very, very few rules. Like, I mean, I seriously think, because I don't remember, honestly, Ronnie, I'm sorry, I don't remember the last time I looked at RFU's rules.
We have 10.
Yeah.
I wish we could have about 50 more.
I win because ours are shorter. Okay, so then I can actually say this now. I'm fairly confident that we have the shortest rules list in any Raw Feeding group. It's basically don't be a jerk, don't harass people, and we don't allow medical posts. We just don't. We shut them down. Exactly. We don't even, a lot of posts we just flat out delete because we just don't want them there, like self-promotion posts or things like that. But the medical posts we leave there, shut down, and turn off commenting after saying we don't allow this because, not that we don't want your pet to get better, but because we don't want any bad advice being spread for the dog's health. Because it's really easy to fall into that trap. It is a really fine line between, getting raw feeding advice, getting guidance, that kind of thing, and flirting over into medical advice. And sometimes it gets really hard to draw that line when it comes to posts and questions. But if it even starts to fall on that medical side, it just has to be done, because you don't want to be responsible, even if it's indirectly as a group owner or a moderator or an admin, for someone's dog dying or getting hurt because you allowed them to be in a situation where they got the advice that led to that horrible situation. It's just, just can't do it. Just can't do it. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. Stop asking.
And don't get mad when we say we can't.
Yes.
And the emails that come with, Kimberly, I know you're not a veterinarian or a nutritionist, but can't answer those either. I can't. I honestly can't. I can, however, tell you, like, on basic stuff, my experience with my dogs. But it's just my experience with my dogs, just as if we were out at coffee gabbing about dogs. We can share things like that, but it's like what we said in the last segment, every dog is different. So just because, one person had this experience and everything was great, does not necessarily mean that that's the case for everyone. Same with opposite. One of my dogs has a lump, and the reason why I don't talk about it a lot on social media is because I don't want to be inundated with everyone's dead dog story. So
as horrible as that is, but yeah, I totally get it.
But, it's like, I'm taking it seriously, but I honestly think it's going to be fine. My vet thinks it's going to be fine, but it's like one of those things where not everyone's situation is going to be exactly the same. So that's why, even if we don't have a vet that is 100% on board with raw feeding, their medical experience is important. So call your vet.
Yeah. I mean,
they're the ones that are going to save your dog's life. Mm-hmm. So they are more important than all of us.
Yes, I agree. Even the most anti raw, fresh food hating, holistic vets are the devil hating vet they're going to be able to do a plethora more for your dog than we can help you in like this one little individual area, this one particular area, which, don't get me wrong, I think it's super important and changes dogs and people's lives, but it's this one little teeny tiny segment of, not teeny tiny, but it's one segment of your dog's life, right? It's one little segment. And it is, I agree, Kimberly. I agree about not talking about stuff when things go wrong. It's really hard to talk about things when they go wrong. Like earlier this week, I ended up missing a YouTube live stream on the Dog Dad channel because I was in a knit fit, freaking out, wondering how. Here's what happened. Basically, I thought that Horace had worms, and it was because he had the situation where I ended up having to, graphics warning, I ended up having to pull what looked like a worm out of his butt. And I was like, okay, how did this happen? How did this possibly happen? I'm dog dad. This can't happen. And I'm like, he hasn't had any symptoms. I went through everything. No butt scooting, no weight loss, no excessive water intake. I mean, nothing. None of the signs, no rice in the poop, nothing. And I went to my very anti-raw veterinarian and had tests done and confirmed that that's not what it was, found out exactly what it was, and it was a zero deal situation. But when it comes to going completely with holistic stuff and doing it at home and not asking these questions of a professional veterinarian, it's just not the smart thing to do. If you think that your dog's health is at risk, go to the vet. The $70 charge to go and see your vet, or the $35 charge, whatever it is for your particular vet, is worth your dog's health and your peace of mind, not having to sit there and worry like, should I go, shouldn't, should I go? If you're asking, should I go, shouldn't, just go. Just go.
What was it?
Say what?
What was it?
It was hair. It was hair. It just happened to be in that right shape, and I was just tired enough to where that's what I thought that it was. Way too many 24-hour days. And luckily it was not that. I'm telling you, that was the best call from the vet that I've ever gotten in my life. Like, well, we did the tests and everything came up negative. Yeah. Like, what?
That's good stuff.
What? Oh my gosh. I like to talk a good game about staying calm, but all of a sudden, as soon as my dogs start showing signs that things aren't okay, do as I say, not as I do. Let's see here. One last topic, and hopefully we can wrap it up in our 15-minute period so we don't go over an hour. But this is, and tell me if I'm framing this wrong, Kimberly, because this was Kimberly's suggestion. Should all dogs be on a digestive supplement and probiotics?
Yeah, that was really interesting. It was a discussion. I don't know how it started, but Renee posted something as a follow-up to an article that I thought was really, really interesting. And it was just, her thoughts were, everyone is running around putting their dogs on probiotics and digestive supplements, but should they be? If a dog has a digestive issue and needs support, like Rodrigo, he has to have it. But with other dogs, if your dog doesn't need to have a digestive support, does your dog really need to be on a supplement? Because my dogs get fermented foods and, raw goat's milk, kefir, but they don't all get a digestive supplement. Only Rodrigo does. They have gotten them in the past, and it's, usually, I don't know, because I'm just sleepy and just adding everything to every bowl. But
we've never done that before, right?
There's a time in the beginning, because of course, raw feeding it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you're constantly learning. So, a couple of years ago, everyone was on a digestive supplement because I was like, oh, we all need it. But then as you start, learning more and, learning about the natural enzymes that are already in the food that you feed your dog, you have to ask yourself, are you really helping them? And I know that there's like tons of talk about the healthy gut biome. And so it feels like if we add all of these supplements to our dog's diet, they're going to live for 35 years because they're going to have this uber healthy gut. But where's the science? And I actually think the article might have started with, it was like a human thing, because that's, probiotics are so big in the the human supplement world, where everyone's, doing probiotics all the time. And it's like, is there any, in fact, Maggie Q, I'm right now binge watching Nikita, but Maggie Q has like a video on Facebook where she's pimping some probiotic from some doctor and how it's helped her and stuff like that. And it's like, this is so huge. And so everyone's running around taking probiotics, but it's like, well, where's the science? And is this really helping? Or, are we going to find out later on that we were just pooping too much? I don't know.
Spending too much money.
Yeah, exactly. As I drink my kombucha. Yeah.
And it's super interesting to look at the other side of that coin of, if you do it and it's not necessary, is it damaging in any way, or are you just making really expensive poop?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I agree. I just think it's necessary if the dog needs support. Another thing people fail to realize is there's I mean, millions of culture strains and probiotics in particular. And each type of strain, like bacteria, is going to be beneficial for certain types of issues. There are certain strains that are actually good for diarrhea. And then there's other strains that's good for supporting the colonization of bacteria in the colon. So if we say our dogs need probiotics as a blanket statement, if for it's a health condition or, like to support healthy gut or digestion, I would have to say we need to select the appropriate strains for the appropriate issue. And the same goes for digestive enzymes, that there's different types of enzymes. There's the enzymes that help digest proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. What do we need to help digest?
Yeah, that's a good point, because a dog on a raw diet would need different enzymes than a dog on a kibble-based diet.
Right. Yep. It's higher starch or higher fats and protein. So
is it a protease problem, a lipase problem?
Right.
Stop getting all smart on us.
I read stuff. Okay.
I read stuff.
Okay. Ronny reads a lot more books than I do, though. I don't know. I've seen your textbook.
I just have really massive, hardcore books, though. That I'm looking at them, big old stack over there.
Look at her staring at it with disdain. She's just
it's traumatizing. It's so big. It's so big.
Oh my God, you traumatized me. Okay, so now we're gonna get off track. Ronny, I don't know when it was the last couple of weeks, Ronny was so upset by a bee.
Oh yeah, that broke my heart, man.
It was just so funny because it wasn't just one post. It was like a couple of posts about this.
Yeah. I was very upset. I was very determined to finish my course with straight A's, but I fucked it up with a B, and I just cursed.
And she's not studying simple stuff. I mean, it's really complicated stuff. If we get Ronny going, she will just make us all just okay, I'm not even going to talk anymore.
Yeah, just go.
It's I'll share my Taurine blog post with you, and then I'm going to share Ronny's Taurine blog post with you, and you'll see. And it's and she got a B. To me, I'd be like, yay! Oh my God, I squeaked by with a B.
And I actually emailed my professor and I asked her, I was like, is that passing, right?
Is that passing? Grades still work the same.
I know. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Getting it right.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm too much of a perfectionist. That could be my issue. I'm too hard on myself.
You're too perfect at being perfect. So how do you fix being perfect without being perfect?
That's why I created Perfectly Rawsome.
Yeah.
I mean, duh.
Oh my gosh. We got off track there fast.
Uh-huh. And I'm
at 11:11,
I'm laughing so much.
4 minutes later, we're
then just one more thing. Best video award goes to Ronny with the wait for it video. I don't know.
I did not plan that. I swear I didn't plan that.
You couldn't. There's no way you could do that.
Trina and I were at breakfast one day just watching it over and over again.
It was so perfect. It was so perfect. And I took everything inside of me not to laugh in his face because I was actually sitting on the ground and he would have tackled me.
It was so great.
That's my life with that dog. Yeah. That is my everyday life with that dog. He's ridiculous.
The sea cow. The sea cow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, recently we've been calling him a folding chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he sleeps like that all the time. He just folds up. And I'm like, I'm just going to stick you back in my book stack or something.
He was so little. And it's just that head. That head is.
Oh, it's massive.
If we're nicknaming dogs by how they act, I think we're gonna have to start calling Wolken like Possum or something, because his favorite way to sleep, it makes him look like he's dead. He's just like on his back like
he does the cockroach.
He does the cockroach. There you go, cockroach. And the funniest thing though is when you walk into the room, if his tail is tucked over his belly, then you walk into the room and all of a sudden this tail just starts twitching on this dead dog body. Like, oh, are you going to come and rub my belly now? We're so off track. We're so off track.
Sorry, guys.
It's fine.
What happens? You just got to come to our comment stream.
Christine is here and she says hi. Hi, Christine.
Hi, Christine.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Thanks for editing the Raw Feeding 101 book. I appreciate it. It was super nice of you. Did you? Oh my God. Did you hear that Jasmine fell asleep?
Oh, look at that. 80% sparkle.
Pop culture.
Pop culture raw.
Now all you need to do is like cover it and like Mod Podge and just dump glitter on it.
Yeah, that's the best one.
I just opened a drawer in my desk and was like, what's in here? And I'm like, oh, shirts, a whole bunch of them.
Hilarious. Well, my friends, we are getting pretty close to the end of our hour, and we have run out of our topics, and now we're starting to talk crazy talk about cockroaches, sea cows, and bees.
Folding chairs.
And folding chairs. I'm not gonna lie. I got really confused there for a second because when you said bee, I thought you meant a BEE. I was like, I don't remember a bee post. Like, when did Ronnie post about a bee? What?
We actually have a very bad wasp problem. So I'm surprised I haven't made many posts about that recently because it's bad out here.
Yeah.
Just you holding the phone cussing at like a hive or something like that.
No, what happened recently, there was a big hive like they made right above our back door. So I was like, crap, we're out of spray. So I boiled some water and I put Blue Dawn in it, really old school trick, and then you throw it on the hive and the lather makes them suffocate. It's kind of morbid when you think about it, right? Well, big idiot that I am, I didn't close my back and all the water went back into my house.
Oh my God. Oh, please.
At least it was soapy water. I could look at it positively that way. But yeah, I had to clean my whole laundry room because like all the water went back into my house. That's
when the camera needed to be running.
It's like, wait for it.
My life over here is a total mess. Total mess.
Oh, well, ladies, where can people find you and your awesome, perfectly Rawsome stuff?
Well, perfectly Rawsome, of course. Raw Feeding University Facebook group and Mission Slim Possible Facebook group.
I love it. I love it. Anytime anybody asks about a dog and weight issues, I'm like, just go over there. I don't have good information for you. Just go ask Ronnie. Just go ask Ronnie.
I know. It's like, and yeah, you guys can find me at keepthetailwagging.com. And yeah, keep the tail wagging. That's all I got going on right now. And I'm happy to say that Sydney is down another pound. So Zoe is down another pound. Scout is down 2 pounds. He is perfection right now. It's like amazing. He's so gorgeous.
I love it.
Awesome.
I love it. And you guys can really the best place, because dogdadofficial.com is a disaster right now. I don't even want to send you there because it looks so bad. And rawfeeding101.com is just one particular thing. It's got the course. So if you want to see the most stuff, go to rawfeeding101.com/RF101 stuff. You can see all kinds of stuff. And the Raw Feeding 101 Facebook group. That's where you'll probably find me the most, because with how crazy things are these days, it's one of the very few things on social media that I actually try and get into on a daily basis, because everything else is just too, I love it all, but it's just not high enough priority. But the group is, and of course you too, if you guys send me a message.
Thanks for responding to our messages.
Yeah, even if it's just raging rantings of being angry.
Yes.
Like, this is happening. You need to listen.
If you guys can see our message stream, there are times when I can't get to it, and I'll get to it like hours later, and all it is just gifts. It's just this back and forth between Ronnie and Scott.
That or 59-second audio recordings that go on for 10 scrolls.
Like, okay, all right. I'm gonna add some too.
My turn. Take that.
I've genuinely wondered from, a time or two or 10 or 15 if I communicate better with gifs than words. Like, I've seriously considered that. But all right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. We're going to go ahead and close out. Hopefully we will be able to see you again next month on the second Saturday of October. I'm not even going to look up when it is now, or else we're going to go off on another tangent and be talking for another 5 minutes about more nonsense, as fun as that would be. But thank you guys for watching. I'm going to go ahead and close this out now. Have a great day and go and do something awesome with your dogs or your cats or your ferrets or your whatevers. Something that you love that's not a human. Forget the human.
Just be awesome.
There you go. Be Rawsome.
Humans are not awesome.